I'll move that back later. Please be seated. Good morning. It's a joy to be back and see all your smiling faces on a sunny day. Nice to have a sunny day. The poet, novelist, playwright, columnist, social justice worker Langston Hughes wrote a short poem. Many of his poems were short, but this is one of his shortest. It was called My People. It goes like this. The night is beautiful, so the face of my people. The stars are beautiful, so the eyes of my people. Beautiful also is the sun. Beautiful also are the souls of my people. This triptych of face, eyes, and souls came to mind when I read our gospel passage with Jesus saying, I am the way and the truth and the life. And he says twice after that, I am in the Father and the Father is in me. That last utterance, when he says, which he says 2 times, sums up much of what we hear in the Gospel of John, whose main theme centers on the unity of God and Jesus. A lot of words for that theme. Nevertheless, what Jesus' intent is, Thomas and Philip, once again, do not understand or believe. Thomas is unsure of how to find Jesus when he goes away, and Philip wants to be shown God the Father. These two, Thomas and Philip, have been with Jesus for 3 years, and they still don't understand. And yet they yearn to understand. They yearn for a closeness to God. To set this gospel in context, we are back before Holy Week. We're before Jesus' death and resurrection. We're jumping around a little bit in the gospel. This is the beginning of what's called Jesus' farewell discourse. And it's a very long section of John's gospel where Jesus does his final teaching. So with the stubbornness of Thomas and Philip not understanding, Jesus doesn't get angry. He doesn't lose his patience at Thomas and Philip's doubt and their requests. Jesus does not mock their doubt and their lack of understanding. Instead, Jesus responds. He explains as best as he can. To Thomas's question about not knowing the way, Jesus replies, He is the way, He is the truth, He is the life. And to Philip, Jesus reiterates that anyone who has seen him has seen Jesus, has seen God. Jesus also gives Philip a different way to believe when he says, then Philip, believe me because of the works themselves. Jesus continues by saying, very truly I tell you, the one who believes in me will also do the works that I do. I think this is something else these disciples yearn to do, just as many of us yearn to do, which is the works themselves. When we think of the works of Jesus, we may many times think of the miracles, healing the blind, making the lame to walk, or some other miracle of healing. Sometimes maybe we can think of Jesus' first miracle, where he turns water into wine. Jesus says, very truly I tell you, no one who believes in me very truly I tell you, the one who believes in me will also do the works that I do. That promise can give some of us hope who are wine lovers. Maybe we will be able to do things like that. But no, when we're out of Malbec, we can wave our arms as much as we want over the water, but it's still going to make us go to the store. What are these works to which Jesus refers? What can those of us who believe or struggle to believe actually do? The works of God are many and varied, and Jesus has his and we have ours. Once in a great while, there's a healing that can only be described as a miracle, and everyone is taken aback by it. But generally speaking, the works of God in which we are involved are different and can go so easily unobserved. Yet these often unseen acts, these works do exhibit God's hand in our world, and these are where we act in certain ways that effectuate the reign of God here now. The onslaught of rains that we've had this past 5 months has been tremendous, and it's brought this story to my attention. A 74-year-old individual named Marland was driving his pickup truck home, and he went to cross the creek bed that he crossed for the past 50 years without incident, which had swelled because of the enormous rains we've had. And as he began to cross that torrent of water, his pickup truck and he got swept downriver and into a larger river system, where he eventually got caught on some uprooted trees that were tangled in the middle of the riverbed. He climbed out of the truck and sat on his roof, thinking about trying to swim ashore, looking at the very heavy current. He said he really wanted to, but 2 anonymous individuals whose names he'd never learned were on the shore saying, "Don't get in this water. It'll just sweep you down. It'll sweep you away. You will not be able to fight the current." They got in the water and tried to make a chain out to him, but there were only 2 of them. They couldn't get to him. So they got out and they stayed with him, talking with him, shouting over the water, saying, "Be calm, we'll wait till help comes." They were able to find some folks who had boats, small boats, who came down carefully along the shore, and they made a chain tied together of the boats out to the pickup truck, where Marland was able to come ashore. So his life was saved. Marland's life was saved by a seemingly small act of kindness by 2 strangers. A miracle? Probably not. A work of God talked about in today's gospel? Possibly. By staying with Marland, keeping him calm until help could come, these 2 anonymous individuals, I believe, were performing God's work in the world today in a personal way, in a relational way. I am in God, and God is in me, is such a personal statement Jesus is making. It is personal. Meant to get under our skin, like someone we love gets under our skin, becomes a part of us. Thomas and Philip were trying to understand this by asking questions. They were trying to let these ideas of Jesus become personal to them too. It is part of their yearning to be God's people in the world. It's part of our yearning to be God's people in the world. That yearning that we hear about in 1 Peter today, that yearning that led Stephen to become the first martyr of the new church. By engaging these questions, by the simple act of asking the questions, we are making them personal to us, letting them get under our skin, creating a relationship, being in relationship. And that's where we can find God, in the questions. Perhaps not in the answers, but in the questions. Not completely understanding the gospel accounts we hear today, having doubts, is natural. And it's an important part of that exploration and the development of a God relationship. Look at how Jesus replied to Thomas and Philip. He lovingly told them it was okay. No one needs to be ashamed of having doubts. This questioning is a part of letting it get under our skin, making it personal and relational, and part, I believe, is part of doing God's work. Those questions are part of doing God's work. The results of God's work can sometimes be immediate, having instant results, as shown by the story of Marland and his pickup truck. But as we know, most of God's works are slow and harder to clearly identify, many times not really understood until we reflect back. Neither of these types of work are magic in any way, shape, manner, or form. All of these works are profoundly holy. In the way all of God's works are holy, they take our yearnings and what happens here on earth, and in our response, they give us a glimpse of the reign of God. To paraphrase Langston Hughes, our beautiful eyes, our beautiful faces, our beautiful souls yearn for God. And our actions make that yearning transform into the palpable presence of Jesus' face, seen in each other's faces, eyes, and souls. Amen.